Welcome to MyCare Channel. I'm Lauren Chapman. We've got a very special episode in store for you today, Monday the 22nd of November. Last week, I spoke to Associate Professor John Gilroy about the NDIS and Indigenous Australians. Part 1 of that interview can be found on our YouTube channel, but today we take a look at Part 2. First though, let's go to our interview with Anne Wilson from Emerge Australia. Today I'm joined with Anne Wilson from Emerge Australia. Emerge is an organisation advocating for and helping educate people on ME and CFS, which is a condition that affects 250,000 Australians. Anne, thanks so much for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about MECFS, which essentially is chronic fatigue syndrome, and what Emerge Australia does in advocating and educating people on that illness?
So Emerge Australia, we're the national patient organisation, and we provide services and evidence-based education about MECFS, myalgic encephalomyelitis chronic fatigue syndrome. We also work with those impacted by long COVID, and as an organisation, therefore, we're uniquely positioned to play a lead role in Australia's public health response to long COVID and other associated conditions with MECFS. So I guess the best way of describing MECFS is that it's a multi-systemic, highly disabling disease that's characterised by post-exertional malaise, PEM, and PEM is a worsening of symptoms such as, for example, fatigue, pain, maybe cognitive impairment following physical or mental effort. And there are approximately 250,000 Australians who live with MECFS, and unfortunately, about 25% of those, which equates to about 60,000 people, have symptoms that are so severe that leave them housebound or bedbound and or dependent on carers. So a large percentage of people with MECFS have it post-virally. So infections such as coronaviruses, Epstein-Barr virus, Ross River virus are often seen to be common triggers for MECFS. So it is a very debilitating condition, and the impact on a person's life can be absolutely catastrophic, and can also have, obviously, with 60,000 people being homebound or bedbound, have a huge impact on Australia's economy. So in 2020, the estimated cost to the Australian economy was $14.5 billion, with 70% of that due to loss of income, 24% due to direct personal or out-of-pocket costs, and 6% incurred as a cost to government and the healthcare system. And about 89% of people who responded to the Emerge Australia Health and Wellbeing Survey indicated that they had to cease or significantly reduce paid work after the onset of the illness, and more than 2/3 of those people live below the poverty line. So we're talking about a disease that is incredibly debilitating, and as a consequence of the difficulties associated in actually diagnosing this disease, many people are left wondering. They are not necessarily diagnosed quickly or easily, and so people's suffering is prolonged, with some people, believe it or not being diagnosed for 5, maybe up to 8 and 10 years, which is just dreadful.
I can imagine living with such a debilitating illness or disease and not having any answers. And you mentioned before that it is often brought on by post-exertion, and you mentioned that there are links between CFS and COVID, and having long COVID. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So researchers have established links between MECFS and that they actually warn that long COVID will develop into long-term MECFS for some patients. So the links are in those most frequently reported symptoms by those who also have long COVID, and that is after 6 months, fatigue, post-exertional malaise, cognitive dysfunction, etc. And as a consequence, they meet the diagnostic criteria for MECFS. So the similarities are there. Dr. Fauci in the US indicated that they are not only similar, but they may end up being the same. We don't necessarily have all the Australian research about that yet, but there is research coming out from all over the world that really links the two. And, for us, this is a little bit of a blessing because it allows Emerge Australia to utilise the links between long COVID and MECFS to shine a spotlight on MECFS and the needs of people with MECFS, and therefore the needs for earlier diagnosis, better GP education, and then optimal referral pathways to organisations like ours for assistance for those people who have gone for so many years unseen and unheard of. They're just not seen, and that's one of the things that comes over all the time when you hear patients talking about how they're feeling about themselves. They just feel no one really hears them.
And what are some of those assistances that that Emerge offers?
Well, we have some services that are funded, particularly our telehealth nurse case management service, which is a service where someone can ring and speak to a clinical nurse and have a session on whatever their specific needs are. We have an information service that provides you access to as much information as is available, depending on what the person's needs are. But, people with, and their carers, it's not just people with MECFS, it's also their carers and their families. They often need assistance with things like completing forms and access to the NDIS, which is very questionable because it's MECFS isn't necessarily recognised as a disability, regardless of the fact that so many people are housebound and bedbound.
Yeah.
So we can provide allied health support, and we can also provide, very importantly, specific training on pacing, which is the management technique that actually, if done correctly and done early enough, can have an impact in the time that it takes for someone to get a better quality of life after they've had one of these post-viral illnesses that has led to MECFS.
So am I right in saying that at the moment there is no treatment and it's more an illness that has to be managed?
Yes. Well, for some people, their clinicians have tried out various pharmacological treatments. So there are some people that are on a couple of things, but generally speaking, as a whole, as a group, this is a condition that at this point in time needs to be managed as soon as it is diagnosed. We don't want people waiting 5 and 10 years to be diagnosed. We want our GPs to have a really good understanding of what the diagnostic criteria are, particularly now that there will be ultimately more people coming in to primary care with potentially lingering symptoms of long COVID. And we need our primary care docs to have a really good understanding of both the impact of long COVID and the tipping point at which it might actually come in to MECFS, and to be able to differentiate, and if not differentiate, be able to provide referral so that the management techniques that have been developed and proven to work can be implemented.
And you mentioned before that there is some research going on in the US and also in Australia about the condition. I guess there is a lot of discussion around graded exercise therapy and that as a treatment for CFS. Is that something that is proven to work, or something that's still up in the air?
Well, the answer to that is no. Emerge Australia is very clear. We're delighted with the developments in the NICE guidelines in the UK that have actually removed graded exercise therapy. You speak to 99% of people with MECFS, and they will tell you that not only did graded exercise therapy not work for them, but it caused harm.
Yeah.
So no, yeah.
The work that you're doing is so important, and we really just thank you for your time coming on the program today.
Oh, that's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And for anyone listening, please share our social media posts far and wide, because it's only through working together, sharing information and raising awareness, both in the general public, within the MECFS community, but importantly with government, that we can really get some good financial investment into this most debilitating of diseases and help those people who are really, really hurting. So we really thank you for the opportunity to speak with you.
Of course. And for anyone watching, please go and visit the Emerge Australia website and all of their socials. And as Anne has said, share that around, because the only way that we can really make a change is to make some noise. Thanks for your time, Anne.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Do you sometimes feel you need help, but that finding the right help is just too hard? At MyCare Channel, we'll make it easier. We'll cut through the maze of information and help you make an informed decision about help for yourself or your loved one. We offer free information in English and progressively in 26 other languages. So call us on 1300 461 300, subscribe to our channel and follow us on our socials. And we'll connect you with the support you need to live well and age well.